Over the years, Life of Luxury has introduced some of the most disturbing creatures, stalkers, and unexplained entities on the internet. From things hiding inside walls and beneath floorboards, to humanoid figures lurking in forests, basements, attics, and places no one should ever be alone. Each case has left behind more questions than answers, but in this video we're doing something much bigger. This video is a complete compilation, bringing all my previous Life of Luxury breakdowns, analysis, and survival discussions together into one massive video. Every stalker, every humanoid, every possessed family member, every dark web creature, everything we've covered so far combined into one video. We're going to revisit the most disturbing cases, break down each entity's appearance, behavior, hunting patterns, and what makes them so dangerous. And most importantly, what your chances of survival would actually be if you encountered one. So with that being said, buckle up, because tonight, we're diving into the complete Life of Luxury universe. Tommy is one of the most disturbing entities in Life of Luxury, originally believed to be Candace's missing son, but the real Tommy had died a year earlier, meaning the creature that climbed through her window was an imposter, wearing his clothes and mimicking his habits. This Tommy looks humanoid, but at night, his body mutates violently, his limbs stretch to unnatural lengths, his neck expands outward like a flail, and his head can rotate a full 360 degrees without injury. His face is sometimes hidden behind a mask, and his tongue is long, black, and slick, designed for feeding. Tommy behaves like a parasitic predator, bound to a nightly growth cycle. When darkness falls, he lies still beneath blankets before rapidly expanding in size, bones stretching under his skin as he emits painful wails. Then he stalks through the house with unnatural intelligence, always returning to Candace. Using his tongue, he penetrates the base of her skull and drains cerebral spinal fluid. Candace shows signs of severe neurological collapse, suggesting Tommy keeps her alive just so he can milk her, repeatedly. His strength is overwhelming. He smashes doors, drags victims through windows, and moves with inhuman speed. His threat level is extreme. Tommy cannot be reasoned with, contained, or distracted. Locked doors, boarded windows, and surveillance do nothing to stop him. Once attached to a victim, he becomes relentlessly territorial, and returns night after night until the host collapses or disappears entirely. Even Parker and Chester barely survive encounters with him. Survival against Tommy is unlikely. The only real chance is to evacuate the home before nightfall and immediately separate yourself from the targeted victim. Staying inside, hiding, or trying to confront him almost always ends in paralysis, abduction, or death. Against Tommy, escape is the only option, because once he begins feeding, it's already too late. The bedworm is a grotesque parasite introduced in We Bought a Parasite Off the Dark Web video. Resembling an oversized tapeworm with the same biological structure, a long segmented body packed with eggs, ready to spread into new hosts. Initially bought as a pet, the creature quickly proves to be an invasive apex parasite, with extreme mobility and an instinct to burrow into flesh. Its bite is the first sign of infection, marking Chester as its primary host. Once inside a human body, the bedworm's offspring spread rapidly. Chester begins experiencing swelling, internal movement, and pain as the parasites replicate beneath his skin. Attempts to seek medical help fail, first with the incompetent Dr. Mumley, who suggests amputating Chester's stomach. As the night progresses, the worm's behavior accelerates. It escapes containment, skitters throughout the house at unnatural speeds, and eventually returns to Chester, launching itself into his body through his lower cavity to rejoin its offspring. The bedworm's intelligence is limited, but its instinct for survival is extreme. It can detect its host from across a room, move faster than a human can react, and force entry through any available opening. Once connected to a host, its goal is simple: multiply, burrow, and consume from the inside out. The parasites inside Chester demonstrate rapid growth, coordinated movement, and an ability to fuse their life cycle between internal and external phases. Survival against a bedworm is nearly impossible once bitten. Early evacuation and immediate professional medical intervention offer the only slim chance. But the parasite's speed, stealth, and relentless return to its host make escape unlikely. If the worm has already begun reproducing beneath the skin, the victim's fate is almost certainly sealed. The organism will keep entering, feeding, and nesting until the host collapses from systematic failure. Taylor's stalker appears to be a deranged, mentally unstable intruder who navigates her home with unnatural movement and disturbing noise. His most defining feature is his height, that allows him to tower over door frames and move with jerky, insect-like steps. His face is obscured by either a mask or smeared face paint, framed by long, messy hair along the sides of his head. Even before Parker and Chester arrive, Taylor reports hearing footsteps, animalistic screams, and receiving disturbing photos, leaving her convinced that someone is secretly living inside her home. After receiving Taylor's email, Parker and Chester suspect either hallucinations or an escaped patient from the nearby mental asylum. Upon entering the home, Taylor explains that her stalker enters at night and hides somewhere within the house. Once the cameras are set up, the truth becomes impossible to deny. As Parker and Chester monitor the footage from their car, the stalker suddenly emerges from a bedroom. His height unnatural, his movements twitchy and unpredictable. The two immediately react in horror, as they question how he is taller than the doorway, and what is wrong with his distorted face. As the night continues, Taylor's stalker grows more erratic. He notices a camera at the bottom of the stairs and begins behaving wildly before smashing it. Moments later, he is seen under Taylor's bed sheets, slowly revealing himself as the camera glitches and her fear escalates. When Taylor wakes up and screams, Parker and Chester rush inside, only to find the stalker already approaching them through the doorway, his towering silhouette barely fitting within the frame. The three escape the house and flee into the night, with Parker and Chester attempting to contact Taylor's parents, calls that were never returned. The stalker's identity, origins, and motives remain unknown, but one thing is clear: he is not simply trespassing. He is living inside the home, watching, waiting, and creeping closer every night. Billy is another distorted humanoid whose transformation mirrors Tommy's, hinting at a larger pattern behind these creatures. He appears lanky and malformed, with extremely long limbs, a stretched frame, and wild black hair that shoots out in every direction. He wears a white shirt with red sleeves, and though his age is never stated, his behavior suggests he has regressed into something primal and predatory. Like Tommy, Billy's Jurassic physical changes begin after entering the woods, suggesting that whatever infected Tommy may have also reshaped Billy into this unnatural form. Billy's behavior ranges from vacant to violent. Early footage shows him drooling uncontrollably at Debbie, before he suddenly shifts into manic excitement when offered food. Throughout the night, he repeatedly bangs his head against the wall and screams, as if reacting to internal pain or fighting urges he can't control. His erratic movements escalate until he smashes a plate over his own head and twists into a disturbing spider-like pose, using his long limbs to move in unnatural ways. As Parker and Chester monitor the house, Billy becomes increasingly predatory. He peers silently into their room from the hallway before ultimately attacking Ronnie and consuming him off camera. Unlike many Life of Luxury antagonists, Billy does not pursue Parker and Chester after the attack, implying his goal was singular and instinctual, rather than territorial or malicious. His transformation pattern, behavior, and anatomy strongly suggest that the same force, entity, or infection that created Tommy is also responsible for Billy. Given his unpredictable movement and bursts of violent strength, survival against Billy depends entirely on distance and early escape. Once he snaps into predatory mode, his speed and erratic locomotion make close-range encounters nearly impossible to survive. Like Tommy, Billy embodies an infection that reshapes human biology into something spider-like, ravenous, and barely sentient. Another reminder that whatever lurks in those woods is a true enemy. The imaginary friend's first appearance instantly sets him apart from the other life of luxury creatures, with one haunting trait. He cannot be seen with the naked eye. Only night vision technology reveals his true form. Physically, he's a thin, elongated humanoid, with an unnaturally protruding neck, a tangled mess of hair covering his face, and a patterned shirt with jeans and black shoes. Despite his frail appearance, he possesses enough strength and anatomical distortion to swallow a human whole, much like Billy. Parker and Chester become involved after receiving an email from a distressed woman named Barbara. She explains that her son Tamar died in a fire, and ever since then, her son Caleb has acted increasingly disturbed, stealing her undergarments, cutting a girl's hair, and becoming violent. Caleb insists that he has an imaginary friend, but Barbara believes something much darker is happening. When Parker and Chester confront Caleb in his room, he vomits a strange, goo-like substance on Parker, hinting that whatever is influencing him has already taken root. Later that night, the truth becomes horrifyingly clear. Under night vision, the imaginary friend emerges and silently devours Caleb whole. As Parker and Chester search for him, Chester is attacked by the invisible creature, confirming that it can physically interact with the real world even when unseen. Before they can react, the imaginary friend turns his attention to Barbara, consuming her in the dark while the two investigators flee the house. To this day, Parker and Chester have received no updates from Barbara or Caleb, and their footage suggests the unthinkable. This being was never a figment of a grieving child's imagination. It was real, and it was waiting for the right moment to step into their world. Eugene was once a loving husband and a father, but his deep insecurity about his appearance pushed him to join the Men's Enhancement Club, a decision that marked the end of who he used to be. After his visit, he returned home on foot through the woods, leaving his car behind, and what walked through the door was no longer human. His face was peeled and stretched unnaturally across his skull, his eyes black and hollow, his mouth hanging open as though the muscles no longer worked. His pale, patchwork skin looked assembled from multiple bodies, his limbs unusually slender, and his facial features misaligned as if stitched on without any understanding of anatomy. Whatever Eugene was before, he was now consumed by an obsession with becoming perfect. From that point on, Eugene isolated himself in the basement, surrounded by black goo, discarded flesh, and half-completed enhancements. His personality deteriorated into something emotionless and predatory. What used to be a father became a psychopath devoted to rebuilding his body, using whatever materials he could gather. His twisted version of becoming perfect involved harvesting skin, attaching new limbs, and molding himself like a living sculpture, no matter the cost to those around him. His enhanced form is barely recognizable as human. Eugene can slide effortlessly across floors coated in black slime. This substance allows him to slip into the skin of others, wearing them like crude costumes. He can assimilate bodies from the inside, construct bone and nerve tissue, detach fragments of himself to infiltrate victims, and twist his torso backward like a spider preparing to strike. Even in his imperfect state, his control over his flesh suit lets him move in ways no human body should allow. Despite his surgical experiments constantly failing, skin slipping off, bones cracking, tendons tearing, Eugene continues his pursuit of the perfect body. He has the knowledge to reconstruct flesh, the strength to overpower victims, and the patience to craft new forms over and over again. Whatever he became in that men's enhancement group, Eugene is no longer a man. He's a creator, a collector, and a parasite determined to build his masterpiece, using anyone unlucky enough to be near him. The forest creature is one of the most horrifying entities Parker and Chester have ever encountered. A towering black humanoid with skin so dark it absorbs light, contrasted only by its bright eyes and a stretched toothy grin. Its hair hangs in long, tangled gray clumps, framing a neck that twists at impossible angles. Though skeletal and malnourishment in appearance, its limbs are elongated, crooked, and unnervingly fast, capable of carrying it either on all fours or upright at a towering height of over 10 feet. This creature first appears in the video It Waits Until You Fall Asleep, where Chester first captures it on camera dragging a woman into the woods. Its attacks escalate throughout the night, eventually breaking into Chad's room, killing him, and leaving his body pinned to the wall like a grotesque trophy. The same fate befalls the stalker woman, who desperately enters the house seeking safety, only for the creature to slip inside and finish what it started. What makes the forest creature especially terrifying is its unnatural physical capabilities. It can stretch its arms and neck to disturbing lengths, allowing it to reach victims through windows, doors, or even from the shadows of the forest. Its jet black skin grants exceptional camouflage in the night woods, making it nearly invisible until it's too late. Despite its frail appearance, it possesses startling strength, easily dragging Chester across the floor and thrashing him like a ragdoll. Silent, patient, and perfectly adapted for nocturnal hunting, the forest creature represents the pure predatory nature of the unknown, waiting just beyond the tree line for anyone who dares to fall asleep. Andy begins as an overweight, middle-aged man, in a simple white shirt and black pants. But everything changes when he transforms into Scratchy the Clown. In this form, he wears loose white clothing, a long greasy wig, and thick white face paint smeared with distorted red lips. His appearance is unsettling not just because of the clown persona, but because of how unnaturally he behaves while wearing it, moving, dancing, and recording himself like someone lost inside a delusion rather than a costume. Andy's personality sharply deteriorates as the video progresses. Once just a rude, dismissive husband, he becomes erratic, verbally hostile, and unpredictable. He isolates himself, talks to someone who isn't there, disappears at night, and obsessively paints his face. Whatever is happening to him appears to erode his sense of identity entirely, replacing him with the unhinged persona of Scratchy. His fixation on the clown identity becomes so complete that Andy as a person seems to vanish, leaving only the character behind. For Parker and Chester, Scratchy is far more dangerous than a man in makeup. Sarah's footage shows that he is no longer just performing, he is becoming something feral. His late night disappearances, his refusal to engage normally, and the way he fixates on Sarah all escalate into a final disturbing act. At the end of the episode, Andy, or whatever is left of him, kidnaps his wife and drags her into an unknown building. His motives remain unclear, but the transformation suggests something deeply wrong beneath the surface. Something that uses the clown persona as a shell while consuming the man beneath it. Chloe's an 18-year-old victim of one of the most disturbing transformations in the Life of Luxury universe. After her father suffered a mental breakdown, believing he had lost his job as a surgeon and that the family dog had ran away, he spiraled into delusion and became convinced that he needed to turn his family into dogs. Parker and Chester discovered disturbing files on his computer, describing his plan to surgically transform Chloe, revealing a methodical and obsessive mindset behind her condition. When the two enter Chloe's room, she is pale, weakened, and hooked up to an IV. Her initial expression is pure fear, flinching at the sound of the door opening until she recognizes Parker. Next to her is a glass of water filled with visible parasites. She avoids drinking it at first, but the footage later shows her consuming it before violently convulsing and suddenly falling still. Moments later, her father enters with a wheelchair and quietly removes her from the room. It becomes obvious that the parasite-filled water was meant to paralyze her, allowing him to perform whatever twisted procedure he planned in the basement. Her full transformation is revealed later, when Parker and Chester find Chloe in the basement, no longer fully human, but changed into a dog-like creature. Even in this altered state, she still reacts with fear, hiding behind plastic sheets when Parker enters, likely mistaking him for her father. When Chester pleads for her to escape, Chloe suddenly lunges forward. Parker and Chester assume she's attacking, but her behavior seems more confused and hostile. What's worse is that she breaks free from the chain attached to her, something that should have held her, implying that the transformation granted her unnatural strength along with her degraded form. Gail is introduced through an email sent by her 18-year-old sister, Leah, who explains that Gail was in a car accident and later returned home by walking through the woods. From that moment onward, Gail repeatedly wanders back into those same woods every night, behaving more like a puppet being drawn somewhere than a recovering human. Leah's video footage shows Gail stumbling out of the trees and violently charging at her, already displaying an unnatural, hostile change in personality. When Parker and Chester arrive at the house, Gail is withdrawn and unsettling. She is silently standing in the doorway staring at them with a blank expression before retreating to her room. Her behavior oscillates between passive and predatory. Leah and Chester are openly scared of her, while Parker insists that she's simply traumatized. But later that night, Gail reveals her true condition. Chester hears whispering from inside her dark room, confronts her, and is met with frustration for disturbing her. However, the cameras capture what's actually happening. Gail sits alone on her bed, crushing a bug and eating it before retrieving a pair of scissors hidden beneath the mattress. She slowly cuts into the bandages on her face, or possibly straight into her own flesh, exposing a horrific, loose-jawed appearance, as if her face partially collapsed or had been carven open. After rebandaging herself, Gail drifts into Leah's room, hovering over her and chewing on her hair like an animal marking prey. When Leah screams for help, Gail hides behind the door with unnatural awareness, staying completely out of sight as Parker and Chester rush in. Once they leave, she re-emerges and leans over Leah, appearing to drain something vital from her. Leah becomes sedated and limp as Gail mutters an eerie chant in a deep, almost male-sounding voice. Taking her sister's hand, Gail leads her into the woods for one final time, toward a shadowed figure waiting deeper among the trees. Both Gail and Leah vanish into the forest, never to be seen again. Parker Jr. is a malformed genetic hybrid created after Chester accidentally mailed Parker's saliva, mixed with the saliva of Apollo, Parker's dog, to a dark web cloning service. Through advertising as producing exact clones, the result was a twisted fusion of a human and canine DNA. What arrived at their home was a lurching, skin-pale abomination, with Parker's facial structure warped over something that clearly wasn't human. Despite its grotesque appearance, Parker immediately bonded with it, naming it Parker Jr., and insisting it was harmless enough to sleep in a dog crate. Chester, however, sensed immediately that the creature carried a violent, predatory awareness beneath its quiet demeanor. Around Parker, the creature behaves like an affectionate pet, docile, soft-voiced, and needy. But when alone with Chester, Parker Jr. reveals its true nature. It begins speaking in fragmented, unsettling phrases, fixing on Chester's body as if studying prey. It whispers things like, "I want your skin," and "Tonight is the night," demonstrating both understanding and intention. Its movements become more strategic and animalistic, showing a level of intelligence that surpasses either of the DNA sources that it produced. Later that night, Parker Jr.'s hostility escalates dramatically. It slips out of its crate, stalks through the house, and begins breaking into Chester's room, scratching, slamming, and eventually smashing the door open. The creature lunges at him, with clear intent to maul. aiming directly for Chester's face and throat. Chester manages to escape, but Parker Jr. flees the property, disappearing into the night. Its current whereabouts remain unknown, and the dark web website's claim to have more DNA on file leaves a possibility that other hybrids or even improved versions could be made. Petunia initially appears as a quiet, polite middle-aged woman with a soft voice and a petunia flower tucked behind her ear. When Parker and Chester first meet her, she seems harmless, shy, gentle, and slightly nervous. But throughout the video, her appearance begins to unravel in disturbing ways, revealing that something is deeply wrong beneath her calm exterior. During the night, Chester spies on her through the bathroom door and sees Petunia in an almost unrecognizable state. Her arms appear nearly skin only, as if all muscle has wasted away. Her face takes on an artificial, doll-like stiffness, similar to Margaret's form from earlier episodes, with stretched features and a lifeless expression. Later, when she returns to the living room, she looks closer to her original form, but her mouth hangs unnaturally wide open, as if she can't fully control it anymore. By the end of the video, it's clear that Petunia has done something severe to herself behind the locked bathroom door. Her neck has become elongated and warped. Her expression carries a disturbing, sorrowful vacancy. Her voice changes entirely, no longer soft and sweet, but hollow and confused. She asks Chester why they told her to stop scratching herself, likely referring to former partners from her bio. She genuinely doesn't understand what hurt means. It's as if she lost the ability to feel pain altogether, leaving her compulsive scratching and intrusive thoughts unchecked, and escalating into self-destruction. Stanley appears as a tall, disturbingly thin man, with elongated limbs, oversized eyes, and a permanently stretched, happy expression that never seems to match the situation around him. He wears a loose hospital gown that gaps wide open in the back, revealing his protruding spine. His hair hangs long and unkempt, blending him in with many of the unnaturally distorted male antagonists featured throughout the series. Whatever happened to him after his accident has left him visibly altered, physically and mentally. Bailey, an 18-year-old college student, emails Parker and Chester after returning home to find her mother and little sister missing. Her father Stanley is the only remaining family member in the house. He avoids giving answers, acting confused whenever she asks where they are. He isolates himself in his room during the day, but at night, he tries entering Bailey's room, making her so terrified that she locks her door before sleeping. Despite Chester's concern, Parker insists Stanley may be simply traumatized, until the investigation reveals something far worse. Throughout the night, Stanley is seen crawling out from under his bed, groaning, and obsessively watching an old tape found earlier in the house. As the tape continues, he becomes agitated, eventually smashing the TV. He later slips into the hallway, vanishes into a room, and ultimately emerges from Bailey's closet, dragging her inside. When Parker investigates, he discovers Bailey missing, her phone discarded, and Stanley having texted her friends to lure them over. A hidden hole inside the closet suggests he's been moving through the walls. Meanwhile, Chester, believing Bailey returned, is violently attacked by a figure resembling her before Parker intervenes. Realizing the house is no longer safe, both flee, leaving Stanley and Bailey's fate chillingly unresolved. The Blast is a towering, skeletal humanoid with pale skin, long stringy hair draped over its shoulders, and a balding scalp. Its limbs are unnaturally long and taper into thin, needle-like claws. The creature wears almost nothing except a cloth-like material over its groin. Its eyes glow white on camera, and its silhouette strongly resembles other distorted stalker-type beings from the series, especially Taylor's stalker. When seen up close, its elongated fangs and immense size completely dwarfing Chester, making it clear this entity is built for predation. Very little is known about how the blast normally behaves, because it shows itself only a handful of times. What is known is terrifying. After escaping from a locked suitcase inside Amber's uncle's home, it begins roaming the halls in near silence, moving with inhuman speed and precision. When the helpless girl attempts to warn Parker and Chester, the blast immediately reacts, tackling her and the camera in a split-second burst of violence. She is never seen again, strongly implying she was killed. Later that same night, the creature slips into Amber's room and locks her inside an empty space until morning, suggesting it prefers isolating or storing victims before acting further. The blast's familiarity with the house suggests it has been confined there for a long time, likely imprisoned either by Amber's uncle or by the helpless girl herself. The creature's ability to navigate the house effortlessly, remain completely undetected, and striking without warning supports its reputation for extreme speed, possibly the origin of its nickname. When Parker and Chester finally rescue Amber, the blast emerges fully, chasing them out of the house with overwhelming size and aggression. Amber later blocks Parker and Chester when they ask about her uncle, leaving the connection between him and the blast unanswered. Whether the creature was bound to him, imprisoned by him, or was her uncle transformed into something monstrous remains unknown. What is clear is that the blast is one of the most dangerous creatures in the series. Silent, fast, territorial, and capable of killing within seconds. Wiggles is a long, rounded, caterpillar-like creature with a light maroon body and countless tiny arms, giving it a centipede-inspired shape. Its face is stark white with black, expressionless eyes and thin antennae spreading from its head. Despite its toy-like appearance, its mouth is lined with sharp teeth, and it leaves a thick trail of goo wherever it crawls. Wiggles can unhinge his jaw to an unnatural width, allowing it to swallow large prey whole. The creature communicates through low, groaning noises, and displays highly aggressive carnivorous behavior. It constantly demands meat and becomes violently unstable when unfed in Helen's home. Her daughter, Allie, is forced to stay awake each night to feed Wiggles raw chicken and fish. When she finally runs out of food, Wiggle erupts into loud screams, slamming the walls with brute force before consuming Allie whole. The creature shows no hesitation or emotional attachment, only hunger. When Parker and Chester check Allie's room, they find only strands of hair soaked in saliva. Moments later, Wiggles enters Helen's bedroom, devouring her in the same violent manner. Its jaws stretch wide open around her body, fully displaying its ability to swallow adult humans. The sight leaves Parker visibly shaken as Wiggles attempts to break through the bedroom door to reach them. Wiggles' final attempt to attack Parker and Chester ends in failure, as they manage to escape the house. Its ultimate whereabouts remain unknown, but the creature's intelligence, speed, and near insatiable hunger make it one of the most predatory entities encountered, operating by a simple rule: if it moves, Wiggles will eat it. Dolphin Man is a frantic and unsettling humanoid, first discovered after a girl named Bernice reported strange, animal-like noises echoing through her parents' house. Believing someone or something was hiding inside, Parker and Chester traveled to investigate. What they found lurking in the shadows was a pale figure, with a handmade marine disguise, who immediately screeched and charged at them, forcing them to flee the home. A mental institution located beside the property heavily implies that the Dolphin Man may have escaped from there before taking shelter inside the house. His appearance is crude and disturbing, a grown man coated in white paint, with torn tissue and fabric wrapped around his waist like a makeshift fin. His face is hidden beneath a self-made beak, likely crafted from cardboard or paper, giving him an uncanny marine-inspired silhouette. Despite looking sloppy at first glance, the costume is surprisingly elaborate, suggesting that the Dolphin Man is more intelligent and methodical than he seems. Dolphin Man's abilities include a shrill, dolphin-like screech that he uses both to warn and to terrify. He is also deceptively stealthy, able to slip out of sight, move soundlessly through the dark rooms, and position himself for ambushes without Parker or Chester noticing, until it was too late. After their escape, Dolphin Man's fate remains completely unknown, leaving open the possibility that he is still wandering the neighborhood, or found a new home to hide in. The Vessel is the primary antagonist in Life of Luxury's video She Gave Birth to It During the Night. The entity is born directly from Gloria during the night, and initially presents itself as an infant-like organism. Later in the video, it demonstrates a far more disturbing behavior, by crawling inside Gloria's body and using her limp, unresponsive form as a means of locomotion, allowing it to pursue Parker and Chester throughout the house. When first born, the Vessel appears vaguely human, possessing hair and a face, but notably lacking arms and legs. It is seen wearing a diaper, giving it its infant-like appearance. Its voice at this stage is high-pitched, shriveled, and weak-sounding. As the encounter escalates, the entity's behavior and physiology change drastically. While chasing Parker and Chester, its voice deepens into the familiar low, wailing tone associated with other Life of Luxury entities. Its teeth are sharp and exposed, with visible gums, and its skin has gray-green coloration so thin that underlying bone structure appears faintly visible. One of the most unsettling aspects of the Vessel is its apparent ability to alter its physical form. Despite initially lacking limbs, the entity is later shown to possess arms and legs once it enters Gloria's body. This suggests either rapid physical mutation or that the Vessel is capable of reconstructing its form depending on its needs. While being filmed by Chester, the camera only captures the entity's torso, with its lower half remaining unseen. This limited visibility adds to the ambiguity of its full anatomy during that moment. The Vessel's defining trait is its parasitic use of Gloria as a host. By inhabiting her body, it gains mobility and speed, transforming her into what is effectively a living shell. This behavior firmly establishes the entity as not merely a malformed infant, but something predatory and adaptive, capable of discarding or reshaping its physical limitations when necessary. Maria's roommate is a primary antagonist in the Life of Luxury episode There's Something Wrong with Their Roommate. He appears as a disheveled man with long, dirty hair, and hands that are almost always clenched into claw-like positions. His voice is abnormal and unsettling when he speaks, often sounding strained or unnatural. One of his most disturbing behaviors is his repeated attempts to feed Maria meat infested with worms, becoming visibly upset when she refuses to eat. The reason for this behavior is never explained. Parker and Chester receive the case from Maria, a 19-year-old girl, who explains that one night her parents abruptly packed up all their belongings and disappeared without explanation. Shortly after, a man appeared at the house claiming to be her new roommate. Whenever Maria asks him about her parents, he ignores the question entirely. Over time, this behavior becomes increasingly threatening. He attempts to isolate Maria, repeatedly invites her into his room, and tries to enter her bedroom at night. On one occasion, Maria locks her door and hears him breathing outside, while attempting to turn the doorknob. He also decorates the house by draping sheets over furniture, furthering altering the environment. During the interview, Maria reveals that her roommate has been collecting her toenail clippings and used dental floss from the trash. He frequently cooks for her and grows angry when she refuses to eat. At one point, he interrupts the interview to ask if she is hungry, and as he turns away, worms fall from his pants. After setting up cameras, Parker and Chester sneak into his room while he is outside. Inside, Parker notices white mannequin arms in the corner, and Chester finds loose teeth near the window. Everyone goes to bed shortly after. Later that night, the camera captures Maria's roommate sitting in a chair giggling and stating, "Tonight I eat." He is seen crouching by doors, continuing to giggle, before systematically disabling each camera, using his mouth to pull them down. Around 2 a.m., Parker and Chester hear a voice calling for help that sounds like Maria, but it does not match her voice and instead resembles a roommate mimicking her. When Parker rushes into Maria's room and pulls back the blanket, he discovers a mannequin wearing a wig with the words "tricked you" written on it. A metal gate suddenly appears in the doorway, trapping Parker and Chester inside as the roommate giggles from the other side. The roommate attempts to feed Parker maggot-infested meat through the gate, and after several failed attempts, Parker manages to break it down. The roommate then chases Parker and Chester throughout the house, screaming in a demonic, inhuman manner. They escape, but Maria is nowhere to be found. Parker and Chester contact the police but are left with no answers regarding Maria's fate. Based on his statement, "Tonight I eat," and his repeated attempts to feed Maria excessive food, it is strongly implied that Maria's roommate is a cannibal who intended to consume her. Rat Boy is the main antagonist of the Life of Luxury episode centered around the abandoned house in the woods. The creature refers to itself through photographs labeled Rat Boy, depicting it in its youth. These images strongly suggest that it was once kept as an attraction, possibly in a circus or similar environment, where it was raised rather than naturally existing in the wild. In terms of appearance, Rat Boy possesses an unsettling blend of human and rodent traits. It has humanoid arms and legs, though its legs are bent backward in the opposite direction of a normal human's, giving it an unnatural, disturbing appearance. Its face initially resembles that of a rat, complete with round ears and prominent buck teeth. After disappearing and later reappearing, its appearance subtly changes. Its facial structure becomes more human-like, and it develops stringy hair, implying either rapid mutation or unstable physiology. At first, Rat Boy appears relatively docile. It is seen calmly running on a large excessive wheel, drinking from a water bottle mounted to the wall, and interacting with its environment in a way similar to a domesticated animal. However, this behavior does not last. Over time, the creature begins to convulse violently and mutate, a process that coincides with a drastic shift in temperature. After this transformation, Rat Boy becomes aggressive and hostile towards anything it encounters. Rat Boy resides in an abandoned house deep in the woods, where it was first captured on video footage sent in by a man named Patrick. Inside the house, Parker and Chester discover a room seemingly designed to contain it. A giant exercise wheel, a water bottle, a block of cheese, and a bed made of hay. A massive mousetrap is also found, suggesting that someone previously attempted to capture or kill the creature using bait. Footprints later led Chester to a hidden tunnel and another room ominously labeled Happy Land, hinting at a larger, more disturbing past. After being briefly frightened off by Parker and Chester, Rat Boy eventually returns, believing it is safe. It resumes using its wheel and drinking water before retreating into a closet. Shortly after, it emerges convulsing and leaves the room entirely. Later that night, after Parker and Chester split up, Rat Boy captures Chester, dragging him into another room and locking him inside a cage. Near the end of the episode, Parker manages to rescue Chester, but Rat Boy gives chase, forcing both of them to flee the house as the creature pursues them into the night. PD is the main antagonist of the episode Do Not Fall Asleep at PD's Playhouse. He appears as a costume mascot-like figure, who looks over the playhouse, and enforces its twisted rules. PD is first seen in 2 VCR-style commercials, where he wears a cartoonish human mask and hat. presenting himself as cheerful and welcoming. His outfit consists of black pants, a long white sleeve shirt beneath a red striped vest, and a bow tie, giving him the appearance of a children's show host frozen in time. When Parker and Chester enter the playhouse, Petey greets them directly, behaving as though they are participants in a children's program rather than investigators. When they ask him where Kaylee is, Petey refuses to cooperate, instead sends him to the naughty boys room, after they fail to answer his questions correctly. This establishes Petey's role as both host and judge, enforcing arbitrary rules with implied consequences. At midnight, Petey's musical fun time begins. During this event, Frendo plays a banjo while Petey plays the same song repeatedly on the piano. The music continues uninterrupted throughout the night, stopping only when a timer goes off. The repetitive nature of the performance suggests a ritualistic or mechanical process rather than entertainment, adding to the idea that the playhouse operates on rigid, inescapable routines. Petey and Frendo appear to be searching for a new conductor, possibly to replace conductor Charlie. This implies that the playhouse functions as a closed system requiring human participants to fill specific roles. Throughout the episode, Petey actively attempts to prevent Parker and Chester from leaving the house. However, once they successfully escape, Petey and Frendo are seen calmly waving goodbye. This final moment suggests that neither of them is capable of leaving the playhouse themselves, and that they are bound to the location just as much as their victims. Frendo is a secondary antagonist in Do Not Fall Asleep at Petey's Playhouse, acting as Petey's enforcer and musical counterpart. He wears a gray to light brown bear mask, blue overalls, and a red and black plaid shirt underneath. Although he appears capable of speech, Frendo rarely talks, instead communicating primarily through unsettling laughter, which makes his presence feel unpredictable and childishly cruel. Frendo appears prominently in both VCR tapes and on multiple posters scattered throughout the playhouse, establishing him as a long-standing figure within the location. In one of the tapes, he is seen playing a banjo, while zapping conductor Charlie after Charlie fails to run fast enough, implying that punishment and violence are normalized parts of the playhouse's rules. This reinforces the idea that Frendo functions as an executioner or disciplinarian rather than a performer alone. During the investigation, Chester finds Frendo swinging an axe repeatedly into a nightstand beside a bed, suggesting either rehearsal, intimidation, or an aborted attack. When Frendo notices Chester and begins advancing towards him, Petey intervenes and scolds Frendo, reminding him that this is not how friends are treated at the playhouse, even if they have been naughty. Frendo immediately apologizes, indicating that he is subordinate to Petey and must follow the playhouse's internal rules. Shortly after, a timer goes off, and the two retreat to perform music, Petey on the piano and Frendo on the banjo, continuing uninterrupted throughout the night. As the night progresses, Frendo is repeatedly observed violating personal boundaries. He is seen peeking over the shower curtain while Chester is in the bathroom, silently watching him. Later in the ball pit room, giggling can be heard as someone, strongly implied to be Frendo, moves beneath the balls, hidden from the overhead camera. Both Petey and Frendo are later caught entering the spare room, where Frendo watches Petey write something on the wall behind furniture. Frendo then retrieves his axe and follows Petey toward the hidden camera, destroying it, preventing any further recording. Frendo and Petey are strongly implied to be searching for a new conductor to replace conductor Charlie. This is further supported when Chester discovers two restrained individuals hidden beneath Frendo's bed. Upon realizing that Chester's found them, Frendo lunges at him while holding the conductor's uniform, confirming his direct role in capturing and preparing replacements. Frendo actively assists Petey in preventing Parker and Chester from escaping the playhouse. However, once they do escape, Frendo is seen calmly waving goodbye alongside Petey, once again suggesting that, like Petey, he is bound to the playhouse and cannot pursue them beyond it. The bucket creature is a minor yet disturbing entity that appears in It Needs to Eat during the night. takes the form of a plastic bucket filled with assorted scraps of skin and unidentified twitching meat, all suspended in a thick black substance. Embedded within one of the larger flesh pieces are two eye holes, and a malformed mouth that the creature uses to speak. Despite being dismembered and contained, the organism is clearly alive and conscious. The creature is discovered when Parker and Chester are inspecting Tommy's room. Chester opens a trash bin and finds the bucket creature inside. Moments later, it becomes evident that the being is sentient, as it begins pleading directly with Chester for help. Its state suggests extreme mutilation rather than natural anatomy, suggesting it was either deliberately torn apart or repurposed into its current form. Very little is known about the bucket creature's origins. One prevailing theory is that it may be the remains of Parker Jr., the clone from We Bought a Clone Off the Dark Web, as the torn yet living flesh bears similarities to Parker Jr.'s biology. However, this has never been confirmed. Another possibility is that the creature contains parts of an animal previously killed by Tommy, merged or altered in some way. Both explanations, however, remain speculative. What makes the bucket creature especially unsettling is its placement. It is the second abnormal food or organism found in Tommy's room, following the discovery of the moving black meat. This suggests that Tommy either collects, consumes, or experiments on living organic matter. The bucket creature's helplessness, combined with its ability to speak and beg, makes it one of the more tragic entities encountered. Its purpose unknown, its suffering ongoing, and its fate unresolved. Emma's mom, Fran, is the primary antagonist in There's Something Wrong with Her Mom. She initially presents herself as a quiet, middle-aged woman, speaking in a low, subdued voice and behaving with unsettling calm. She displays a disturbing fixation on dolls, treating one as if it were her own child. This attachment takes a violent turn when she is later seen stabbing the doll in the head, symbolically killing it. At first glance, Fran appears to be a fragile but caring mother, but this facade quickly begins to unravel. As the episode progresses, it's revealed that the person believed to be Emma is not actually the daughter at all. The real Emma is a teenage girl with long blonde hair who has been imprisoned in the basement. The woman upstairs is not the child, but the mother herself. This twist reframes everything about Fran's behavior. Her quiet demeanor, her fixation on dolls, and her obsessive control are not maternal instincts, but symptoms of severe psychological trauma. Fran recounts a deeply disturbing childhood memory while speaking with Parker. She describes an incident where her own mother became enraged after Fran tried one of her dresses. As punishment, she was locked inside a closet overnight, screaming for help until, disturbingly, she claims she eventually enjoyed it. The song she later sings to the doll during the night suggests abandonment, implying that her mother may have left her locked away entirely. This event appears to be the origin of Fran's mental illness, strongly suggesting long-term PTSD. As an adult, Fran seems to reenact this trauma through her treatment of Emma. She locks the real Emma in a dark basement, isolates her, and exerts total control, mirroring the abuse she herself endured. Her fixation on the doll may be a coping mechanism for a child she lost, or a surrogate for the daughter she fears losing again. This may explain why she kidnapped Emma in the first place. Not out of cruelty, but out of a deeply warped need to preserve a family at any cost. Additional details deepen the horror. Fran is implied to be the same person who earlier attempted to break into Emma's home, an attempt that ultimately appears to have succeeded. She sings Slendy's lullaby to her doll, further emphasizing her detachment from reality. While the title of the episode hints that the fake Emma may actually be the mother, this has never been officially confirmed. What is clear is that Fran is not driven by supernatural forces, but by generational trauma, making her one of the most psychologically disturbing antagonists in the series. Mr. Jeffries is the central antagonist of the episode We Bought a House Off the Dark Web. Despite never physically appearing in the episode, His presence dominates the narrative and atmosphere of the house itself. From the recovered photographs shown in the video, Mr. Jeffries appears as a tall man with unnaturally proper posture, a bald head with sparse patches of hair, and a smile that seems permanently carved into his face. His eyes are pitch black and visibly distorted, giving the impression that they are artificial or inhuman. Based on the evidence presented, Mr. Jeffries is strongly implied to have been a kidnapper and possibly involved in human trafficking or long-term imprisonment of victims. One of the most unsettling aspects of Mr. Jeffries is that he is never seen alive in the video, raising serious questions about whether he is even alive during the events that take place. His house was built in 1879, and official records claim that 37 people went missing inside the property over a 14-year period, with some of those disappearances dating back as far as the late 19th century. As of 2025, the house is approximately 145 to 146 years old. The photo of Mr. Jeffries shown in the episode appears consistent with late 1800s or early 1900s photography, suggesting that he would almost certainly be deceased by the time Parker and Chester entered the house. Yet the house remains active, occupied, and dangerous. Inside the basement, Parker and Chester discovered two human figures kept in cages, which Mr. Jeffries allegedly treated as pets. These individuals behave more like guard animals than captives, aggressively chasing Parker and Chester when released. This raises disturbing implications. If Mr. Jeffries is truly long dead, then who placed these people in the basement, and how long have they been there? None of the documented missing people would realistically still be alive, which introduces the possibility that the basement captives are not normal humans, or that the house itself plays an active role in sustaining or transforming its inhabitants. Additionally, inconsistencies deepen the mystery. The episode states that Mr. Jeffries was 39 years old, a detail that directly conflicts with the age implied by the photograph and the house's construction date. It is also unclear how authorities obtained the photograph at all, as Mr. Jeffries was never officially captured, suggesting it may have been taken before a warrant was issued, or under unknown circumstances. One prevailing theory is that Mr. Jeffries may be indirectly connected to nearly every property featured in the Life of Luxury universe. This theory is supported by recurring patterns. The homes are consistently isolated, dilapidated, and structurally similar, often featuring secret passages, expansive basements, and hidden rooms. Whether Mr. Jeffries was a singular mastermind, an early architect of these houses, or something far worse, possibly no longer human, remains unknown. What is clear is that his influence extends far beyond his own house, leaving behind a trail of disappearance, decay, and unanswered questions. Annabelle's brother, whose name is Kent, is the main antagonist and there's something wrong with her brother. At first glance, Kent appears mostly normal, wearing a dark shirt and light-colored pants, with noticeable balding or missing patches of hair. However, as the episode progresses, his appearance shifts dramatically. He is later seen as a pale white humanoid figure with long hair, hunched over as he crawls or walks in an unnatural posture. His breathing becomes heavy and distorted, adding to the tension surrounding him. The case begins after Kent returns from a work trip, noticeably different. He becomes distant, avoids speaking to Annabelle, and isolates himself in his bedroom or bathroom. He refuses interviews, locking himself away whenever Parker and Chester attempt to speak with him. Annabelle describes him sitting in the corner near his closet and staring at her with an unnervingly wide smile. On one occasion, she believes he is in the kitchen, only to find him silently standing in her doorway, seemingly speaking to someone she cannot see. His smile stretches across his face in a way that feels unnatural and forced. That night, the cameras capture Kent sitting on the edge of his bed before crouching down and whispering toward his closet. He says, "I want to so badly, it's making my tongue wet. She doesn't know I'm not him yet." He then climbs into the closet briefly, whispering again before emerging more hunched than before. Soon after, he begins crawling across the apartment, moving erratically and banging violently on Annabelle's bedroom door, while she screams inside. By the time Parker and Chester rush in, Kent has vanished. In his room, They find unwrapped, used bandages and a jar emitting a foul odor near a vent, suggesting something physical may have taken place. After the encounter, Annabelle moves back in with her parents while the family investigates what truly happened to Kent during his trip. Whether Kent himself returned or something else wearing his appearance came back in his place remains unclear. His own words, "She doesn't know I'm not him yet," strongly implied that whatever was in his apartment may have not been Annabelle's brother at all. Anna's dog initially appears to be nothing more than a large black dog, but almost immediately something feels wrong. Its movements are unnatural, slow, stiff, and awkward, accompanied by constant cracking noises as it walks. At times, its eyes reflect white in the camera, and its tongue appears abnormally long for a normal canine. While it growls and makes dog-like sounds, the pitch is noticeably lower and more distorted than expected. During the day, the creature remains idle, seemingly avoiding sunlight, and becomes visibly agitated whenever Anna turns on the lights inside the house, possibly out of fear that its disguise could be exposed. Its behavior becomes more unsettling at night. While Anna is asleep, the dog enters the room and begins licking her hand. As the groaning grows louder and more intense, the creature suddenly stands upright, revealing its true form: a pale humanoid figure wearing the fur and head of a dog as a disguise. The transformation is abrupt and disturbing. When Parker and Chester rush inside to intervene, the humanoid strips off the dog fur entirely and flees into the woods, abandoning its disguise. It appears almost disappointed or frustrated that it failed to accomplish whatever goal it had in mind. The creature's true identity remains unknown. Once exposed, it is seen as a pale, naked humanoid with a loud, screeching voice and the ability to move on all fours. Its appearance and behavior share similarities with other entities in the series, though no direct connection is confirmed. Its quadrupedal movement, unnatural sounds, and ability to mimic an animal suggest something far more calculated than a simple disguise. In terms of abilities, this entity demonstrates a strong capacity for disguise and camouflage. It was able to convincingly pass as a normal dog from certain angles in low lighting. While it does not appear to change its skin color, it can alter its outward appearance to resemble animals it observes. The exact method of this transformation remains unknown. Like other creatures in the series, it also displays enhanced speed, strength, and inhuman vocal range. Though it did not successfully harm Anna in this encounter, its patience, deception, and ability to infiltrate a home unnoticed make it a serious and unpredictable threat. The Basement Man is the main entity featured in the case involving an 18-year-old girl named Caroline. After her parents passed away, Caroline inherited their home through their will. However, she refuses to enter the house because she is convinced that something is living in the basement. She even captured footage of something grabbing her ankle while she was walking downstairs. In addition to that encounter, she reports hearing scratching, screaming, and even a voice calling her name, saying, "Caroline, come down here with me." The police reportedly dismissed her claims, leaving her to seek help from Parker and Chester. When Parker and Chester set up cameras in the house, the footage confirms that something is indeed in the basement. The area smells foul, and an unknown substance, possibly feces, is splattered across the floor. Eventually, a black humanoid figure is captured crawling across the basement floor on all fours. The creature appears to be a naked human male covered in black body paint, though the paint does not fully conceal its skin. He has claw-like hands and feet, moves in a quadrupedal manner, and emits a loud but low-pitched screech. He is visibly unhygienic and appears to use the basement floor as a restroom. As the night progresses, Parker decides to enter the basement alone to confront the entity, while Chester stays in the car communicating through a walkie-talkie. Inside, Parker hears scraping sounds before discovering the creature playing with an empty can. The moment it notices him, it begins screaming aggressively and chases him. Parker becomes trapped, forcing Chester to enter the house to rescue him. The creature continues to screech and pursue them until Chester manages to barricade the basement door with a chair, allowing both of them to escape safely. After sending the footage to Caroline, Parker and Chester state that she stops responding to them entirely. Whether she returned to the house, ignored their warning, or something else happened remains unknown. The basement man's behavior suggests territorial instincts and predatory tendencies, and his ability to speak and physically grab Caroline indicates he is more than just a feral presence. While his exact identity is unclear, his aggression, stealth, and willingness to lure victims downstairs makes him an extremely dangerous entity. The Black Goliath spider is the exotic creature purchased by Parker and Chester after Chester discovers a dark website selling rare and dangerous pets. While browsing through worms and other strange listings, they eventually settle on a massive arachnid known as the Black Goliath spider, despite a warning on the site advising buyers to keep it away from elderly people and pets. 2 nights later, the spider arrives at their house in a cardboard box, tightly wrapped in heavy steel chains, marked with the skull and crossbones symbol. The box violently shifts when handled, suggesting the creature inside is already agitated. After carefully unwrapping it, they discover a second sealed container inside, similar to previous hazardous shipments they've encountered. The spider is placed in a glass aquarium tank in the garage, weighed down with wood and large rocks to prevent escape. Cameras are set up and they go to bed. For 2 hours during the night, the spider crawls around spinning webs, before becoming increasingly aggressive. It suddenly jumps with immense force, breaking through the objects placed on top of the tank and escaping confinement. Later that night, Parker wakes to strange noises and checks on Chester, only to find the spider has sealed Chester's mouth shut with thick silk. Chester panics, fearing the spider may have laid eggs inside of him. Parker attempts to calm him down and later reassures him that he does not appear to be infected, though he plans to take him to a doctor for confirmation. Physically, the Black Goliath spider is far larger than any real-world species, weighing approximately 20 pounds. It has long black fangs, white eyes, and immense physical strength, capable of shattering glass and launching itself with enough force to dislodge heavy objects. It is revealed to be female and pregnant. Despite its exaggerated portrayal, it is inspired by the real Goliath bird eater, the largest spider species in the world. Additionally, the webbing seen in Chester's mouth was likely not egg-laying behavior, but rather the spider attempting to create a burrow-like enclosure, as tarantulas commonly line their shelters with silk. While not shown directly attacking with lethal force, its strength, size, and ability to immobilize a human using silk make it extremely dangerous if not contained properly. Emily's stalker is the entity featured in We Found a Stalker in Her Closet. The case begins when a girl named Emily reports that someone has been entering her home at night, but only when her parents leave. She captures footage of a tall figure crouched in the corner of her room. At first, Parker and Chester don't even notice it because of how well it blends into the shadows. When it stands, it appears to be wrapped head to toe in a sheet roughly 8 feet tall, wearing black boots. On camera, the suit appears white, though in person it seems completely black. Its face resembles a smooth white mask. Whether it is a mask or simply its natural face remains unclear. The stalker shows clear intelligence and planning. Despite Emily locking her doors each night, it still manages to enter her house. During the investigation, Parker confirms he checked the closet and found nothing. Yet later that night, the entity is seen climbing out of that very same closet on camera. It quietly moves downstairs before Parker and Chester wake Emily and rush her into their car. As Parker starts the engine, something violently knocks from the inside of the trunk. When they check, nothing is there. Moments later, the camera captures a glimpse of the figure hiding along the side of the house as they drive away. The following morning, they discover how the stalker has been entering, through a hidden hole in the ceiling of the closet. This explains how it was able to remain undetected earlier in the night. Its movements are extremely quick and calculated, suggesting it may have been inside the house long before being noticed. Let's go over some of its abilities. During the night, high scratchy audio distortion is recorded on the cameras. Chester suggests it may be interference, and one camera cuts out completely while the stalker sits at the table, suggesting camera interference. It moves quickly enough to potentially access the car trunk and reposition itself outside the house within seconds, implying extreme speed and stealth capabilities. And finally, concealment and infiltration. It hides in tight spaces, enters through ceilings, and avoids immediate detection even during direct inspections. The entity demonstrates stalking behavior, intelligence, stealth infiltration, and possibly electromagnetic interference. Its ability to remain hidden inside a family home without detection makes it especially dangerous. Emma Stalker is one of the more psychologically disturbing entities featured in Life of Luxury. Parker and Chester receive a report from a 19-year-old girl named Emma, who claims that at night, she hears voices outside of her bedroom door. The voices sound exactly like her family members, her mother, father, grandmother, and grandfather, even saying specific things only they would know. One voice in particular repeatedly says, "Emma, it's Mom, come out of your room." What makes this impossible is that Emma hasn't seen or spoken to her mom in 4 years. On the way to her house, Parker remains skeptical, but hopeful there's a rational explanation, while Chester considers the possibility that the voices could be coming from something ordinary like a television. When cameras are set up overnight, the situation escalates. A white humanoid figure is captured crawling across the floor instead of walking. It appears aware of the cameras and deliberately places its hand over them to stop the recording. In another room, Emma is seen awake while a distorted singing voice outside of her room chants, "Ashes, ashes, let your mother in," before screaming "now." The voice ominously says, "You'll have to let me in eventually," before the door is forcefully pushed open. When Parker and Chester rush inside, they find a man crouched in the corner of Emma's room. The man growls and chases them out. All three escape into the car. Afterwards, they state they are still trying to identify who or what that man was. In terms of appearance, the entity is first seen as a pale, white humanoid figure, with a bandage wrapped around its head. It crawls unnaturally across the floor and later appears wearing a red and yellow dress identical to the one Emma had been wearing earlier that day, suggesting deliberate impersonation. The creature is intelligent. It knows how to speak, how to mimic voices, and how to disable cameras. It communicates through growling and distorted speech, switching between childlike singing and aggressive commands. Its primary ability appears to be sound mimicry. The creature can replicate the voices of people close to its victim, though not flawlessly. Emma was able to recognize something was wrong because she no longer lived with her family and knew they wouldn't be visiting her at night. However, if she had still been living with relatives, the deception might have worked. How the creature knows these voices remains unclear. It may have observed her family beforehand, though this is never confirmed. Unlike some other entities in the series, this one does not immediately remove its victim. Instead, it seems to perform psychological manipulation, attempting to lure not only Emma, but Parker and Chester as well. This calculated behavior suggests a high level of awareness and intent. Overall, Emma Stalker is dangerous not just physically, but mentally. Its ability to impersonate loved ones and invade a private space at night makes it one of the more unsettling cases in the series. Giggles the Clown appears in one of the more unsettling Life of Luxury cases, after Parker and Chester purchase him from a strange, new dark web website that offers same-day delivery. Chester gained access to the site through an anonymous invite, which is reportedly the only way to view it. The site listed several clowns for sale: Smiley, Stitches, Baggy, Buttons, and Giggles. One of the clowns, Stitches, even had a disturbing review from someone named Her Daughter. Despite Parker feeling uneasy about how unfriendly the clowns looked, Chester convinced him to purchase Giggles for $1,300, hoping the clown would bring something positive rather than dangerous. When Giggles arrives, he immediately feels off. He's taller than expected, hunched over, and moves in a strange, exaggerated way, wiggling his fingers and speaking in a low, unsettling voice. He greets them with "Hey boys," and when questioned about his odd skin, he invites Chester to touch it. He even asks if their parents are home, which raises an immediate red flag. Things escalate when Parker and Chester find Giggles in another part of the house, speaking to someone who isn't visible. After being told to leave, Giggles begins laughing hysterically, and splashes Parker with water before being forced out. However, the situation doesn't end there. 25 minutes later, Giggles is still outside. Hours later, footage reveals that he managed to re-enter the house and even invited another clown inside with him. The two block the camera, leaving Parker and Chester unaware of what happened inside or whether they even truly left. When the house is searched, no clowns are found, adding to the mystery and tension of the encounter. While Giggles presents himself as mischievous and clownish on the surface, his invasive behavior, strange speech, and ability to enter and move unseen make him far more unsettling than he initially appears. His similarities to Scratchy the Clown also raise questions about whether there's a large network behind these entities, or if this is simply a repeating pattern in these cases. Jennifer Stalker is a central entity featured in the Life of Luxury episode He's Been Living Under Her Bedroom Floor, presenting itself as a hidden presence that exists just beneath the surface of an ordinary home. What begins as a disturbing situation quickly escalates into something far more dangerous, as the entity reveals itself to be aggressive, persistent, and impossible to ignore once discovered. The creature itself is a non-bipedal humanoid with a pale, almost unnatural appearance. Its body structure is distorted, moving on all fours in a way that feels more animal than human. It has a disproportionately large head, small eyes, and a wide mouth lacking any visible teeth. Two dark marks are present on its back, adding to its already unsettling design. Every aspect of its appearance reinforces that this is not something meant to exist in a normal environment. Its behavior is highly erratic and aggressive. When confined beneath the house, it reacts violently, especially when unable to reach those above it, eventually forcing its way through the floor in an attempt to get closer. Rather than relying on sight, it appears to navigate using echolocation, emitting low, disturbing screams to locate movement in the dark. This allows it to track individuals even when visibility is limited, making it far more dangerous once it becomes active. Jennifer Stalker isn't something just hiding in a house. It's something waiting, listening, learning, and once it decides to come out, there's nowhere left to hide. Kenzie Stalker is an entity presenting itself as a persistent and invasive presence that targets its victim long before physically revealing itself. What begins as a series of subtle, almost dismissible events quickly escalates into something far more direct, suggesting that the entity is not only watching, but actively studying its target from close range. The figure itself appears as a small, humanoid entity that moves exclusively on all fours, giving a distinctly unnatural, animalistic posture. It wears what looks like a simple cloth, while the rest of its body remains exposed. Its overall appearance is erratic and unsettling, resembling something that imitates a human form without fully understanding it. The behavior leading up to its appearance is slow and deliberate, Kenzie begins receiving repeated phone calls from an unknown number, with the caller remaining completely silent, only listening. This alone suggests a level of awareness and intent, but the situation escalates when she receives a photo of herself brushing her teeth, an image that could have only been taken from within or directly outside of her home. This confirms that the entity had already breached her sense of privacy long before revealing itself. Its presence becomes undeniable during the night, when it approaches her house and knocks on the window before forcing its way inside. Once inside, it moves erratically across the floor, emitting strange, almost distorted laughing sounds as it crawls through the space. The way it moves suggests familiarity with the environment, as it makes its way through the attic, effectively disappearing from sight while remaining inside the home. Despite authorities later searching the house, nothing is found, leaving no physical trace behind. This absence only confirms how easily the entity can enter, observe, and leave without being detected. Its behavior shows a clear pattern: watch first, learn, then act, making it far more dangerous than something that attacks immediately. Kenzie's stalker doesn't rely on brute force or speed. It relies on proximity, patience, and the ability to remain unnoticed until it chooses otherwise. And by the time it finally shows itself, it's already been there for much longer than anyone realized. Margaret is a central entity featured in the Life of Luxury series, presenting itself as what initially appears to be nothing more than a worn, lifeless doll. However, as the events unfold, it becomes clear that Margaret is something far more dangerous, an entity tied closely to its owner, reacting emotionally and violent when that connection is disturbed. At a glance, Margaret resembles a ragged doll with long, messy brown hair draped over her shoulders, wearing a nightgown throughout the entire encounter. Her face is marked by smeared red lipstick and hollow, lifeless eyes, giving her a vacant and unsettling expression. The condition of her body appears deteriorated, with a surface that looks damaged and aged. As the situation escalates, her appearance becomes even more unnatural. Her hair is revealed to be a wig, which she removes to expose the bald head, and her movements shift from stillness to something far more erratic. When she attacks, her jaw opens in an unnatural, inhuman way, far beyond what her form should allow. For most of the encounter, Margaret remains completely motionless, showing no signs of life until a specific trigger occurs. When Lily scratches a Lily plus Margaret message on her bedroom wall, the entity immediately reacts. It rises on its own and moves toward her room, twitching its head and emitting loud, disoriented screeches upon seeing the damaged writing. This reaction suggests a strong emotional attachment, or at least a possessive response tied to Lily. Shortly after, Margaret removes her wig and disappears entirely, no longer confined to where it was last seen. The entity's presence continues through indirect means, using a voice to lure Lily by calling out to her from the closet. When Lily approaches and sits on the edge of her bed, Margaret reappears from beneath it, attacking without warning. It bites onto Lily's foot and attempts to drag her underneath, displaying both physical strength and clear intent to take her. Even after she is rescued and removed from the house, Margaret pursues, showing no sign of stopping. There is a clear and unnatural connection between Margaret and Lily. Lily refers to her as a best friend and roommate, implying a long-term relationship despite the entity's hostile behavior. This bond appears one-sided and possessive, as shown by Margaret's reaction to the scratched message and Lily's decision to return to the house after escaping. Despite everything that occurs, Lily is drawn back to her, suggesting influence that goes far beyond simple fear or attachment. Margaret's abilities include what appears to be teleportation, allowing her to vanish and reappear in different locations without explanation, combined with her ability to remain completely still until triggered, mimic voices, and attack from hidden positions. She becomes extremely difficult to predict or avoid. Her true nature remains unclear. While she resembles a doll, her movement, behavior, and structure suggest something far more complex. Megan's stalker is an entity presenting itself as something that exists within the structure of a home rather than outside of it. Its presence is subtle at first, revealed through unexplained noises, such as heavy stomping, pipes bursting, and distant manic laughter, despite no visible source. This creates a constant sense that something is there, even when nothing can be seen. Its appearance is only partially captured, but enough is revealed to establish something clearly unnatural. The figure appears bald, severely hunched, and humanoid, wearing what looks like a loincloth with fabric wrapped around its chest. At one point, eyes can be seen watching from a hole in the wall, suggesting it uses the house itself as cover. Its posture and movement feel wrong, as if it were never meant to exist in such confined spaces. The entity eventually becomes more active, physically interacting with Megan while remaining mostly unseen. During the night, a hand slowly emerges from the hole in her room, crawling onto her bed and playing with her hair as she sleeps. The moment she wakes and reacts, it disappears instantly, retreating back into the walls. Even when others enter the room, no trace of it remains. As they escape, the figure is briefly caught on camera moving across the room, confirming its presence but never fully revealing itself. Its ability to stay hidden while still interacting with its surroundings makes it especially unsettling. Megan's stalker doesn't need to be seen to be dangerous. It's already inside, and it's been there the entire time. Clone Parker is introduced as a perfect duplicate of Parker delivered in a sealed cardboard box labeled as a human clone. From the moment it appears, the situation carries an unnatural tone, as the figure inside looks identical to Parker, yet something about it is immediately off. While it physically mirrors him, the differences become more apparent the longer it remains active. The clone is first seen unconscious, restrained in chains, and dressed in a white t-shirt and shorts, later changing to darker clothing. Its appearance closely matches Parker's, but with subtle, unsettling details. Its eyes are completely black, and a thick, dark substance drips from its mouth. Despite being nearly identical, its expressions and presence feels wrong, giving the impression of something imitating a human rather than truly becoming one. Its behavior truly reinforces this. The way it speaks closely resembles Parker's, but the tone is slower, more deliberate, and occasionally includes phrasing that feels unnatural or out of place. It maintains a constant smile and interacts in a way that seems rehearsed, as if it understands how to act human but doesn't fully grasp it. As the situation escalates, it becomes clear that the clone is not simply a copy. It has its own intent, and that intent is to replace the original. During the night, the clone actively attempts to get rid of the real Parker, leading to a confrontation where Chester tries to determine which one is genuine. Relying on questions he assumes only the real Parker would answer correctly, but overlooks the clone's ability to mimic knowledge and behavior. This results in a fatal mistake, as the real Parker is left behind while the clone takes his place without resistance. Clone Parker doesn't overpower or rush the situation. It observes, imitates, and waits for the right moment. And by the time the difference becomes clear, it's already too late to fix. Shelby's stalker is an entity presenting itself as a persistent figure that remains just outside of reach, appearing only long enough to be seen before vanishing again. Unlike more direct threats, this entity operates through repeated sightings and proximity, creating a constant sense of being watched without ever fully revealing how it moves or where it goes. Its appearance is relatively human at first glance, described as a male figure with long hair, but its movements quickly break that illusion. When captured on camera, it appears unstable, shaking as it attempts to climb over Shelby's porch, moving in a way that feels unnatural and uncoordinated. Despite this, it is still capable of approaching the house silently and with precision, reaching windows and positioning itself close enough to observe without being immediately detected. Its behavior follows a clear pattern: approach, observe, and disappear. Shelby reports repeatedly seeing it outside of her window or standing in her backyard, only for it to vanish the moment she tries to confront it. During the night, its actions become more aggressive, attempting to enter the house by opening her window while she sleeps. Even when Parker and Chester try to intercept it, the entity evades them effortlessly, retreating into the woods and disappearing without a trace. At one point, it is seen watching from behind a tree, and later from a structure resembling a garden arbor, maintaining its distance while still making its presence known. There are also subtle details that suggest something more deliberate behind its actions. A strange marking is discovered on a nearby tree, possibly indicating territory, intent, or some form of communication. Combined with the fact that the entity returns multiple times and seems to track Shelby's movements, its behavior feels less random and more targeted. Shelby's stalker doesn't rush or force its way in immediately. It waits, watches, and tests its approach, getting closer each time before disappearing again. And the fact that it was able to reach her window more than once suggests it wasn't just passing through, it was trying to get in. Timmy is a tragic entity presenting a case where grief leads to something far more disturbing than denial. After Timmy's death, his father creates a puppet using his remains, and somehow, that puppet retains Timmy's consciousness. What should have been a lifeless object instead becomes something aware, emotional, and unstable. At a glance, the puppet appears crude and unsettling, resembling a poorly constructed figure rather than anything meant to function as a toy. Its movements shift between completely lifeless and suddenly active, making it difficult to predict when it will act. When animated, it behaves in ways that feel unnatural and erratic, sometimes moving freely, other times appearing stiff or disconnected, as if struggling to maintain control over its own body. Its behavior is deeply tied to its identity as Timmy. It speaks, reacts, and expresses emotion like a child, repeatedly asking others to play with it. However, this childlike behavior quickly turns aggressive when ignored or rejected. During the night, it becomes fully active, moving through the house, watching others as they sleep, and eventually attacking when it doesn't get the attention it wants. Its actions are impulsive and emotional, shifting rapidly from sadness to violence. The connection between Timmy and his father plays a major role in the situation. The father treats the puppet as if it's still his son, speaking to it and keeping it close, while also attempting to control it by restricting its movement. This dynamic suggests that while Timmy retains some level of consciousness, he is not fully stable, and the environment around him only confirms that instability. When it attacks, the puppet shows clear physical capability, choking and overpowering targets despite its small size. It does not hesitate once it becomes aggressive, and its behavior suggests that it doesn't fully understand the harm it's causing. Its need for attention overrides everything else, making it unpredictable and dangerous in close proximity. Timmy isn't just a puppet, and he isn't just a child anymore. He is something caught in between, aware enough to feel, but not stable enough to control it. And when he wants to play, saying no is not an option. The Grey Love Dog is an entity originating from a dark web purchase, advertised as a loyal companion that would love you for life, and follows its owner everywhere. What arrives, however, is something far removed from a normal animal. An entity that appears briefly, causes destruction, and vanishes without explanation, leaving behind more questions than answers. Its appearance loosely resembles a black Russian terrier, but with unnatural features that immediately set it apart. Most notably, it possesses two long ear-like appendages that resemble elephant trunks, giving it a distorted, almost artificial look. Its overall shape and movement raise suspicion, to the point where it is initially believed to be a person wearing a dog suit rather than an actual animal. Its behavior is erratic and aggressive from the moment it enters the house. During the night, it is captured on camera moving through the home, tearing apart the environment and leaving the interior completely trashed. There's no sign of hesitation or curiosity. Its actions appear deliberate, focused entirely on destruction rather than exploration or interaction. What makes the situation more unsettling is how it appears. Despite reviewing the footage, there is no clear moment where the entity leaves the house, leading to confusion about how it entered or exited in the first place. Even after contacting the authorities, no explanation is given, and the assumption that it was simply a person fails to account for its behavior and lack of visible escape. The Grey-Loved dog doesn't stay, doesn't interact, and doesn't behave like anything it was advertised to be. It arrives, causes damage, and disappears without a trace. And whatever it actually was, it was just never a dog. After breaking down every stalker, every creature, every case, and every disturbing encounter throughout the Life of Luxury universe, one thing becomes clear. These entities may all look different, hunt differently, and hide in different places, but they all thrive on the same thing: isolation, fear, and people ignoring the warning signs. From things hiding in walls, basements, and crawl spaces, to creatures stalking people through forests, mimicking loved ones, or waiting until the middle of the night to strike. We've covered some of the most disturbing cases this series has to offer, and hopefully after this deep dive, you have a much better understanding of what makes these entities so dangerous, and what it might actually take to survive them. I also want to say this will likely be one of the last videos I make covering Life of Luxury, at least for now. We spent a lot of time breaking down these cases, and I genuinely hope you guys enjoyed the journey as much as I did putting these videos together. If you've been following the series, thank you all for the support. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next. And remember, in the Life of Luxury universe, sometimes the scariest thing isn't the creature you see, it's the ones you don't.